Hi, it's me, Farmer Jay. Welcome back to Derriere Farms. I've had Farming Simulator 22 since it came out on November 22nd. I got it first thing in the morning when it was released, just like most of you probably got your copies. Since I've had the game for 7 days now, I thought it would be a good opportunity to do a quick review and go over the features I like and I don't like about the latest game in the Farming Simulator franchise. First, I'm going to say I'm running a PC, so experiences may differ depending on whether you're on a console and what generation console you're running. Okay, having said that, for me, this version of Farming Simulator is probably the best version yet to be released on day one. It's got more items and more features than any of the other Farming Simulator games had when they first came out. Now, I know in the forums there are a lot of people complaining about features that are missing, things they'd like to see. But as with any of the other Farming Simulator games, these features will be added either through patches, downloadable content, or mods, and the game will mature just like all the other games did, or simulators did. Okay, now for the things I like. For me, there are two new features that are game changers in the Farming Simulator franchise. One is the addition of seasonal cycles, and the second is production chains. First, we'll take a look at seasonal cycles. Some of you may have had Seasons mod installed on Farming Simulator 19 and previous versions. Seasonal cycles aren't quite as complex as the Seasons mod was, but it still gives you the base functionality. Excuse me. What it allows you to do is farm year-round. As the game cycles through the 4 seasons. You have summer, you have fall, you have winter where it snows, and you have spring. And as a season cycle, so does the look and feel of the game. There's even snow in winter, which accumulates on the ground. It also allows you, if we go to the seasons map, crop calendar, to plant crops at different times. For example, winter wheat, barley, and canola are all planted in the fall, just after the harvest. The rest of your crops are planted in the spring and mature through the summer, and you harvest them in the fall. As a farmer, that's the way it worked for me. Except in Canada, it's too cold and we couldn't grow winter wheat and barley. It had to be planted in the spring, so we had spring wheat and spring barley. Now, the second game changer, as I said, for me, is the addition of production chains. In previous versions of Farming Simulator, unless you had various mods, like Global Company, all you did was you planted your crops, milked your cows, sheared your sheep, and then sold the products at various marketplaces. What production chains do is they take these products one step further. You can now purchase facilities that will either buy your crops and your milk directly, just like in previous versions of the game, or if you buy the production facility, it will allow you to convert that product into something else. For example, the dairy takes milk and produces cheese. The restaurant takes crops you grow in your greenhouse, like lettuce, tomatoes, strawberries. There's also a bakery, which takes your wheat, which comes from the flour mill, which comes from grain crops. And yes, there's a new grain crop, sorghum. These production chains aren't cheap, and you may have to save up a while to be able to afford them. Let's take a look at a couple of them on the map. As I said, there's a fast food restaurant which takes a variety of different end products. So most of your food products. The bakery, which takes grains and turns them into bread or cakes. Now that's a far more complicated production chain, and we will save that for a separate video. I'm looking for the flour mill. I forget where that is on this. There's a cereal factory. There's the dairy. Let's take a look at the dairy, since that's the easiest one. Okay, you can either, like I said, just dump your milk into the sell point at the dairy, if I can find it. I had it a minute ago. Bear with me for a second. There it is. So you can just drop your milk off. The dairy will buy it like it did in previous games. Or, as I said, you can purchase the dairy. Let's go ahead and we'll purchase the dairy. $70,000 to purchase. But now it's yours. And now you can choose what it produces when products are dropped off of it. You can check what production chains you have under the menu in production chains. So for the dairy, we can tell it what to produce from what we deliver. Chocolate's a little bit more complicated because it takes milk and it takes sugar. The two basic items that only take milk are butter and cheese. You can then, as I said, sell those products onto another production chain. If you want to see who's buying them, you go up to your prices menu and you scroll down till you find, and I just scrolled past it, I know I did. Come on, cheese, there it is. So the fast food restaurant, the grocery mart, Johnson's Farmers Market, and the Red Marble Bowling Restaurant all take cheese. Some of the production chains are fairly simple. Some of them are more complex. Like I said, grain crops go to the grain mill, and they can either then go to the cereal factory or another sell point. Now, there's no point in purchasing the cereal factory if you don't own the grain mill. It's kind of a three-step process depending on what you're doing. It makes sense because it is, as the game calls it, a production chain. So you can't skip a process. The only thing in production chains that you can't purchase are the final destination points, like the diner or the restaurant. As you can see, you've got a delivery icon here, but there is nowhere for you to be able to purchase it. So that's production chains in a nutshell. Like I said, we are going to go into more detail, and I will produce several videos covering all the production chains, how to operate them, what's required, and the value each product gets. Okay, so we're back at the farm. The first thing that I noticed when I loaded into the game was the game loaded for me and had already set all the settings to maximum. And my video card did not ramp up like it did in Farming Simulator 19. So the game has been optimized by Giants and performs a lot better. Next, textures. The new textures in the game look amazing. The rocks look like they're actually... the stones in the gravel look like they're actually stones in the gravel. The wood paneling on the house looks like it's actually wood paneling. And if we go out to the road, you can even see it's just not a matte finish like the asphalt was in previous games. It looks like it's worn and driven over. After textures, the next thing that impressed me the most was sounds. Giants claimed in their pre-game releases that they'd put a lot of work into sounds. And they certainly have. You can hear the tractor engines working as they pick up speed, or you can hear them working harder as they do something like plow a field. Now, it's not just enough to have simply improved the sounds of the tractors. Giants went ahead and they improved a lot of other sounds too. The animal sounds sound better in my opinion. And if we listen closely, I'm going to be quiet for a minute so hopefully you can hear it. Not so much going up, but you can hear the trailer making that rumbling sound as it starts to lift and as it hits the maximum and then coming back down. You can hear the sounds of the hydraulics as they lower each level, and then the big thud as the trailer finally finishes going back to its regular position. The headers on combine harvesters also have their own sound. You can actually hear the cutter bar and the header as it rotates. You have to listen closely because the engine sound does drown it out a little bit. I'm not sure. Some people have been reporting sound issues where they actually can't hear those new sounds without cranking the volume all the way up. I had the same problem and I have submitted a report to Giants, and that's why I had to get so close to the trailer for us to be able to hear the sounds. The game comes with 3 maps. Elm Creek, Obeleron, and Erlengrat makes a return. It's not really a new map, but it's remastered for Farming Simulator 22. And with seasons turned on, all 3 maps look beautiful. As you can see, we're in winter here and the trees are bare. In the fall, they turn a nice fall color, and in the summer, they're nice and green. As you probably saw when we were looking at production chains, there's a new menu. Not sure if it's a huge improvement. It's definitely different than the old one. Take pricing here, for example. You've got a list of all your products like you did in the previous games, but it's laid out slightly differently. What I do like with seasons is that you now have seasonal price fluctuations, so you can see when is the best time to sell your crop, and when is the worst time to sell your crop. So sorghum, best time to sell it is in January. The worst time is August, September, right before the new harvest starts. Kind of like in real life. Most farmers buy contracts to sell their grain later on in the year. Very rarely do they sell it right at harvest time, but it'll depend on the yield and several other factors. If they get more crop than they had in their contracts and they don't have storage, they'll sell it right at harvest time. One thing I do miss is the old menu, if that had one more tab where you could see all your products and the current prices. So you could see, oh, now's a really good time to sell sunflowers. And it would show you all the buying points. But I'm not sure if that's the best. Maybe barley's got a really good price right now. Or wheat. So I kind of miss that from the old game, the overall price chart. But I do like the addition of the price fluctuations for seasons, so you can see what the trends are up and down. Let's get back in that tractor and turn it off. I've covered water and how to get free water in another video, because water now costs money if you buy it from a pump. Just like it does in real life, farmers have to pay the cost to pump the water from the well into the holding tank or the pressurized tank. Watch the video because it shows you where you can still get free water from. Other things that are new, or it's hard to say whether they're better tuned or they're worse tuned, are things like wheel slip. Semi trucks, depending on the one you have, the wheels really do tend to slip in the fields. So what I tend to do is, do I have a semi in the field? Just TGS. It's not going to demonstrate it very well. Let's go down here and we'll take a look at the Superliner. What I'll do is I'll park along the side of the road where the wheels have more grip. And then I'll use a grain cart, like the one we have here, pulled by a tractor to take the load from the combine to the semi parked at the side of the road. Again, I don't know if this was intentional or not, but it's more realistic because you rarely see farmers driving semi-trailers through their fields due to the soil compaction and the fact that the trucks will get stuck. Rocks are also new. When you plow a field, you can dig up rocks, just like in real life. I find it's a little bit overdone because rocks appear all over your fields. Not just here and there, but everywhere. If you've ever watched some of the videos from Millennial Farmer, you'll see he digs up rocks. And he's got a rock picker, so he drives up to the rock, picks it up with the rock picker, and dumps it somewhere. In the game, you can actually sell rocks now. So it's, like I said, semi-realistic. If I used a subsoiler or a plow, this field would be covered in rocks. So it depends where you live. Like I said, Millennial Farmer, he'll get the odd big rock dug up, so he just drives the rock picker up to it. In the game here, you actually have to run the rock picker up and down the field, just like you do a cultivator, to be able to get all the rocks. On the farm we had, we were lucky enough that the ground was deep enough and had been farmed long enough that we rarely ever got rocks. So I tend to play with rocks turned off. Another thing I like, and I'm just getting into this now, and we will do a video covering dairy farming and other animal husbandry, but I like the fact that animals can be purchased at different ages. They're not all adults like they were in previous games. You can buy calves and you can raise them up to be full-grown animals. So you can buy piglets and you can raise them all the way up to adults. When they reach a good weight, you sell them and you bring home the bacon. Perfect. AI Workers is also a new feature for the game. You can tell an AI worker what you want to do, or what you want it to do. Previous games, you needed a mod like Courseplay to be able to do this. Now, Giants has said they're still working on AI workers and trying to make them more efficient. Unfortunately, they are a little bit buggy right now. But essentially, what you do is you go to the AI worker screen, select the vehicle you want to do something, and you tell it to create a job. So you can tell this tractor with a fertilizer spreader that you want it to go. You want it to do field work. You put it in the field, and it's automatically going to fertilize the field. It probably won't do anything because I've already fertilized this field, but let's hit start job. And what it should do is it should follow the road all the way to the field. And they do get confused sometimes. It should follow the road all the way to the field and then start fertilizing. Let's see what it does. The other thing you can do with AI workers is you can tell them to go to a location. They'll go to that location and then they'll wait for you to give them further instructions. Or you can tell an AI worker, let's say with a tractor trailer, that you want it to load at a certain loading point and you want to deliver that to the grain mill. So it'll deliver your corn, wheat or barley to the grain mill and unload it. And you can either tell it to loop and keep doing that job till your silo's empty, or you can tell it you just want a one-time delivery. We're in the field, and there we go. It's fertilizing the field. A couple of glitches I've noticed with this so far, and again, a bug report's been submitted, but AI workers do get hung up on objects. If there's a parked car that's slightly in the road, it might drive into that. And the other problem I've really noticed is that vehicles that have dual wheels get hung up on bridges, like narrow railroad bridges, or on vehicles as well. For some reason, the game thinks it's driving a regular tractor and not a tractor with dual wheels. Okay, so apparently there is a patch in the works according to Giants. When it's going to be released, we're not sure. They haven't said, and they haven't said what it's going to cover. Whether it's just going to cover, let's turn that off. We've seen how it works. They haven't said whether it's going to cover things like the AI workers. It probably will a little bit. But there are other bugs in the game that other people want fixed, so it's all going to depend on how Giants prioritizes it. seasons, while I think about it, if you're not into seasons in a big way, you don't want to have to wait a full year to harvest your crops, or you don't want to have winter months where you sit around doing nothing except look after your bees and your green hives, you can turn off, where is it? You can turn off seasonal growth. Yes, paused, nothing will grow, nothing will happen. Or no, excuse me, what no will do is it will let you plant crops regardless of the month. So while the game is still going to tell you it's December, the weather is going to be like July, and you can actually change this to a fixed visual month. So we're going to just change back to September, and we're going to go back to the fields, and you can see it says we're in February, but all the trees are green. Now, even with seasonal growth turned off, you still have to go through. It's not like Farming Simulator 19 where you had plant growth at slow, medium, and fast. I always had it on fast, so I would get a crop growing in 24 hours. Crops now have different growth rates. You can roughly figure those out based on the planting calendar. Some crops will grow in as quickly as 4 days, and other crops will take up to 12 days. So this is this is something I want them to bring back, because I'm playing seasonal growth on one farm. Another farm, I just want to be able to play the old way, harvest my crops, do my thing, and be quick. Another thing I hate about the game is they've raised repair costs on vehicles. They're double what they were before. And the other thing they've added is a feature to allow you to paint vehicles. This is very expensive and very unrealistic. I drove a tractor off the lot. I cultivated a field, went back to the dealer to have a look, and they wanted $20,000 to repaint a tractor that hadn't even done a full day's work yet. So that's something I hope they really look into and they fix. A couple of other bugs that bug me. Again, these will get fixed, I'm sure of it. But apparently, if you let bees produce more than 2 pallets of honey, the third pallet will push the first pallet into the ground and you won't be able to retrieve it. Another thing, speaking of pallets that I hated it in 19 and I hate it in 22. In fact, I hate it in all the games, is pallet loading. I avoided it like the plague. When a couple of mods came out in 19, like the ability to change the amount of wool that goes into a wool pallet, from 1,000 all the way up to 8,000 liters, all of a sudden all my pallets became 8,000 liters. That way I didn't have to sit around and load pallet after pallet after pallet. I could wait a couple of days till it got to the 8,000 liters, then load one pallet instead of 8. This is something they need to fix in this game too. The landscaping tool, let's talk about that, because this was a huge feature that Giants claimed was going to be a massive improvement over previous versions of the game. But in my opinion, and many other people's opinion that I've been reading in the forums, it's worse. You have the raise tool, which is this one, so you can raise and lower the ground. You have the level tool, which does level the ground. Soften instead of smooth. It just doesn't have the same strength to it that the smooth tool did in Farming Simulator 19. And I have yet to be able to get the slope tool to work. If you know how, go ahead and leave a comment. Painting the ground. I like the animal mud texture. We'll just have a quick look at that. And we'll run over and we'll have a look. Yeah, I'm going to have to replow this field now, but see how it's got that reflection? It looks like it's wet and muddy. It really does look like mud. So I really do like that one. But overall, we don't have as many textures, ground textures, as we did in previous versions, or in Farming Simulator 19. We've got gravel. I can't get it to change anymore. So we have animal mud. We have asphalt. We have dirt. We have the forest ground cover, which we had. We had grass. And we have gravel. And that's it. Now, if you go ahead and I've already started, so I might as well finish wrecking this field. But if I paint the grass texture onto the field, it doesn't work like it did in 19. Just to give you a quick heads up, what you have to do is you have to plant grass onto that field. And now your grass is there. And there we are, nice fall colors. So overall, oh yes, one other feature that I don't like is if you're looking at your farm and you want to see what the soil conditions in your field are, as in, do they need lime or plowing? Well, the whole map shows up as needs plowing. So it's very hard to see if that field needs plowing. It just blends in with the background, and it makes it very hard to see. So those are my thoughts on Farming Simulator 22. Like I said, overall, it comes with a lot more features, and it's a much more advanced game than the previous versions were at launch, without mods. We know the mods are coming, and the DLC is coming. Overall, I would give the game a 9 out of 10. It's definitely worth buying. Just be patient, and the mods will come. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe. And feel free to leave a comment about what you would like to see come to the game next. This is Farmer J, signing off.